It's coffee time.
It's coffee time.
Hey.
Hey.
It's mostly gone. What does that say? The morning after mug? Just every Thursday. Just come in so drunk.
No. If only. How are you?
Pretty good-ish. Good?
Looking very dapper this morning, afternoon, in
Thanks.
your crispy
Changed
shirt.
shirts.
Just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
Put a
you.
nice shirt on. Put a nice my shop jacket on.
It's very nice.
Probably find something from last winter in it. Network is struggling.
Oh.
Got some jitter and packet loss.
Don't we all? It's just life, you know. Bit of jitter, bit of packet loss.
We'll call you jitter and me packet loss.
Nice.
Got some stuff here.
Some things and stuff. What's news?
News
You're
is...
about to have a baby.
It seems like it constantly. I think we're at like 35 weeks. But
Oh yeah,
it's just
getting close.
all that's going on, all that's on our minds anymore.
Totally.
I'm sure you know the feeling.
You're at the event horizon, as we called it.
Does that mean we're landing soon, or
You don't
think
know
so?
what's going to happen after the event horizon. It's all
Good.
unknown.
That's what I keep hearing. So if you had a plan, throw that plan away. Is what they keep telling us.
That's right. That's right. Awesome.
Oh gosh, what's up?
You're done.
I guess back my printer recap is there's no solid anything so far. I've been back and forth with support,
Damn it.
and I'm waiting on them to get back to me from this morning, because last night I went back to the old standard print we had saved on the printer from like I looked today. The file date is May 25th of 2023. That has been printing basically flawlessly, except for like a weird quirk in the summer where we had to use a slightly different temperature. But no issues. It prints, I don't know, we've probably close to 100 since then of the desk food in PETG. And I was like, last night I was like so frustrated. You just keep going back and forth in this circle of nothing getting accomplished with that machine, and all these things we need to print, we're getting behind. And I was like, well, I'm just going to print the old one. You know, like this all started because I tried to change it slightly in CAD and then reslice it. Exactly the same settings as before. I pulled in the old file thing, imported the part into it, resliced it with those same settings, and it printed like crap. And that sent us down all these hardware changes and supports suggesting to slow down the volumetric flow and add more layers and slow down this. It did everything. Nothing's working. It's still printing like crap. The new sliced parts. So I was like, let's print the old one. It hasn't changed since May. It's flawless.
Get out. Get
Flawless.
out of town.
Exactly how it always is.
So it's a slicer issue then.
That's what it has to be. It has to be the slicer. So I emailed them that back with some examples of 2 different sliced versions the last 3 or 4 days, and my example of yesterday. And it's perfect. And so all of the PLA stuff we've sliced too seems like it's related to the slicer.
Wild. Breaking news. Bamboo owners across the nation wait with bated breath for Justin's report. That was live,
So-
people.
I have a forum post I'll share here,
out.
but I've had other people basically, I think, kind of with a SEO situation or like chiming in, having similar, like I've been printing this thing and now suddenly reprinting it. Suddenly it's trash.
Now I'm terrified
And
that I did a software
that could
update.
Completely. Yeah, I put in there what my version was. And I don't, maybe the old files do tell you, well, they probably do, what version you're on when you slice it. So I'm not touching that file, and it's now backed up.
Good.
Because Ricky came out, I was like, good news and bad news. We can print these, but no progress anywhere else. So I don't know. I guess that's good news to some degree. We'll see what they say. They seem to have a knack for finding weird bugs.
Yeah, you really do.
I'm not doing anything weird. It's just like reslice my standard file and
you're living life on the edge.
Here's what's funny about that is I intentionally wait for all firmware and slicer updates. I'm like a version behind because of that. And it's still getting me. Jim just did a spit take.
I just spilt my coffee down my face. Yeah, right. Yeah, I've been a bit nervous about this. Just waiting for our bamboo to break now.
Right. You can get that $2,500 version and just take it offline. Anyway. We shall see.
Can you like feed in the good G code and the bad G code and get code interpreter to analyze the difference or something?
I love that that's where you get to. Have GPT solve it for you and just prints complete gibberish probably.
Yeah.
This is really, really complicated code. I don't understand it.
It looks like you're trying to print a dust boot. Clippy pops up.
Is this a boot? Yeah, so that's my one little bit of update. I don't know. Hopefully we'll get back some. The support person, after I waited, it's like once you get into their access, then they're quick to respond. But you have to wait to get to that like, I'm available to you now stage. Yeah. But I don't know. Anyway, yeah. How about you? What's up with you?
What's up with me? I've been printing things. Haven't had any issues with the bamboo, thankfully. Touch all the wood.
Don't touch it.
I did do a firmware update on the weekend, which now I'm worried about. But I've printed stuff since then, and I'm not like you. I don't have any products on it, so I don't save any of my. No, I mean, I don't save any of my projects basically that I slice. Like everything is just throw away. And then
that's amazing.
Resend it from Fusion every time I want to reprint, and I just reslice it and go again. Yeah. So I don't have any backed up code. If things do go,
it stays in that like purgatory weird place that it sends to the Neutron folder or whatever it is.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even save it to the Neutron folder. I just like send it straight to the.
They might be there.
Printer. It might be there, sitting there waiting for me.
They're just there somewhere.
Maybe
they're all like, "Hey, you gonna come back and help me out? I'm just here in a Neutron folder."
But I've been mucking around printing those little like stool leg junctions, which has been fun.
Those are cool.
Yeah, kind of fun. The stool, like I had a 3-legged stool at the lunch table for about a week, and that collapsed on me the other day while I was eating my lunch. It's just PLA. I was expecting it to break, and I'm not doing it as a proof of.
Did you hit the ground?
Yeah. I'm not doing it as a proof of concept of like, this is a legitimate way to make furniture. I'm just like, oh, this is an interesting way to get angles happening with our threaded dowels. And my intention actually is to try and find a foundry that could cast that part in aluminium, because that would be a really fun little device accessory to make tables out of.
You could just get a mill instead.
I know. Imagine what a little UMC 500 could do. Yeah. It's definitely a millable part.
Pause here a sec. Something may be different with your audio. It sounds like it's clipping a little bit.
Clipping. All right, let me check. How's that?
I think better. Yeah. I don't know. Right. I mean, it's good until...
For some reason, Mac OS creeps the volume up on this mic Like when this
Oh, yeah,
mic's
you can turn
plugged
that
in
down.
the sound settings, it just like it just incrementally.
Yeah, you can turn that off somewhere, I think. I don't remember how to do it. Yeah, I'm currently, not to get too distracted here, I'm watching a perfect print happening.
Yeah, good.
What
Amazing.
were you, I forget now. You were printing and mill parts.
Mill parts. Yeah, it's totally a mill part. Could even be a lathe part, maybe.
Right.
Off axis, something, blah, blah. Yeah, anyway. That's why I'm printing those little junctions, because I'm thinking about
Yeah.
metal things. That's been fun. What else have I been doing? I don't know. I've got a storage problem I need to ask you about. Figure you might know the answer.
Maybe.
I don't know how to solve. Do you use Lightroom to manage photos?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'll tell you what I want, and then you could fix it for me.
I want a friend like that.
I want to have the last 15 years worth of photo and video in my Lightroom library in a single library. But I don't. That would, as I understand it, that would mean having all of those files local on a drive, on the device I'm using, or on an external drive. And at the moment, I've got like sort of 10 years worth of photography just online only in Dropbox, because I've got no computer that's actually, I don't own a drive or a computer big enough to have it all sitting there local. And I was wondering if you know, like, is there a way of creating, well, what would be the hardware solution that you'd go to if you wanted to do that? But also, is there a way of creating proxies? Because I know Premiere Pro does like proxy nonsense, which I've never learned how to do, but.
Right. I do, yeah. So I've used it for a real long time, back in school even. And I probably have less photos than you, but you can keep them on like externals. And I think depending on how you've generated previews, the previews will be there. The photos will be in the database, but then to actually do something with them, you'd need access to a physical thing. So like plug in the drive or whatever that would be. Yeah. I think that would work. I honestly have lost a lot of experience. I just haven't used it very much in the last 3. Yeah. But like I used to every product. I was thinking about that today, like coming out with a tool holder, and a lot of the products we put out, I haven't shot real big boy camera photos with. Like I just use my phone or like renderings.
Yeah.
And so I haven't used it very frequently, but yeah. I think that should work. You can really bog down your database, as far as I remember, with some version of the previews that are like heavier than the other ones. There's something about a smart preview. It's been a long time, but there's probably something there. Yeah,
I need to do some more research, I think, because at the moment I've just got a very sort of limited run of about maybe 4 years worth of stuff in Lightroom. And I just continually get frustrated by like, I just want to like flick my scroll wheel and go up another 5 years, and just it's not like I need it all there to edit. Like I don't need to go to a photo from 10 years ago and edit it, but I just want to see that thumbnail and be able to click in, see the preview, and be like, oh yeah, that cool. So I've kind of got this master reference library.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this weekend actually. Aaron and I were talking about some photo from like back in college, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't have anything in my iCloud past like 2015. And I was like, there are so many photos. And I think I was much more judicious about like what was in certain cloud repositories, cloud places, because at that point I was like not paying for iCloud storage. And now we have like, what is it, like 2 terabytes for $10 a month or something? Yeah. And I don't have that much even close. I don't think we even have half a terabyte, right now. So it's like I need to go find those and drop them in so they're all there, because like the search is so good on some of those things now, right? Like just finding old photos and things. And that does always stress me out. It's like I try to be pretty good at it, but then it's like I realize that I've got 15 years of my life somewhere just like on a drive and it's not backed up somewhere I can easily get to. So
Yeah. At the moment, my fix, if I'm trying to find something, is like I go into the Dropbox app on my phone and I navigate to like the 2006 folder and like search through
Did you see that?
Tiny thumbnails trying to find something. What was that?
this app just watch this. See if it does it for you.
Yeah.
There's yours.
Thumbs
Apparently
up,
this
Justin.
weird Squadcast app will recognize thumbs up. Apparently not mine. I have a faulty thumb. Gems will create an emoji.
Ta-da. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's good to look into. I've been thinking about that actually because I use like Google Photos as like a secondary backup, and I have some family with Android things, so it's like nice to be able to like have some interaction there.
Disown
and
them.
use it as a secondary. And that thing is getting full now, and I'm like, God, all right, this like, it's like cloud creep or something, basically, where you constantly, I've got 200 gigs of something now. I've got to get another $10 a month to the eels.
Cloud creep. Yeah, totally. So much cloud creep in life, in business.
Right.
It's everywhere. I was going through my Fusion licenses the other day. I think we've got 5 seats plus the nesting extension. We've got the bill for the nesting extension for the annual, about 2,000 Australian dollars. And I was like, oh God, I really need to log in and actually check that we're using all these licenses effectively. So I jumped in there and like, it's a bit of a minefield, that Autodesk management stuff. Like it's like every time I go in there, I'm like, how does this work again?
There's a billing one, and there's like managing licenses. It's a mess.
It's full on.
Or just not as simple as one would like.
Anyway, I did identify that we have probably one more Fusion license than we need. But then when I emailed our Fusion retailer about it, CADPro, who are lovely, thumbs up.
Yeah.
They were like, no, Fusion will only give you a refund if you cancel a subscription if it's within 30 days or something. So I've got that one for another 11 months, pretty much.
You need another person. Another person with that license.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said this before, but for some reason, October was the month where I seemingly subscribed or changed all of our subscriptions. So it's like Shopify for,
Expensive.
Squarespace, and God, there's like 5 things, I swear. Zapier, and there's so many different ones. And I was like, oh, okay, it's just time to pay all the bills. I have
What's new in Software Corner?
Oh, yes.
a new thing. Juan, who had some apps for us before. But this thing, I actually think it'll be way more useful for you. It's called archive.org, I believe. Archive.com, not org. That's the history thing. So it's like a free archiving system for mostly Instagram, but like when somebody tags you in a story, it'll save that such that you can like reuse it as the, person you're being tagged as.
Okay.
Like butter. And then there's a whole system, I think, so that you can like request to use it, and so it doesn't disappear basically.
So it screenshots it for you and saves it.
Yeah, it puts it in its little cloud archive, and then I've gotten emails since I started using it where it's like, you've been tagged in these stories this week.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
Yeah. Good. I think it's also interesting in that, like, I don't really get tagged in that much stuff, but even some of it, like, I miss, right? Like, and I feel like your scale of probably getting tags and stuff is probably a lot higher. And I think it'll even give you, like, kind of engagement or, like,
okay,
maybe, like, the value of how good it was, potentially. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's free.
Sweet. I'll check it out. I do miss tags sometimes. They go to my, like, spam Instagram inbox, or I've been deleting Instagram on the weekends actually. So I have it off my phone for about 3 days. So I definitely miss stories if someone tags us in during that window.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll check it out. Thanks. Archive.
I just got this from Ricky coming in Slack here in a second. Oh, that is taking a long time.
Printer updates?
No. The part we've been trying to find for a week and a half.
Oh.
It's the little, my friend Tyler told me it's called a double spigot. It's the thing that goes on the end to connect lights to light stands.
Oh, the lighting
I took my
thing
light
you
down.
missed. Top of the ladder.
We were both like crawling around the floor today again looking for it. And I just got this photo from Ricky and it's on top of the ladder.
Yes.
And it's somehow been there for like a week and a half. It hasn't fallen off.
You got a ladder with pockets in it. That's awesome. Nice.
I kept describing it to him. I'd be like, no, it's like this weird little knobby thing and it's got threads on both. He's like, I've never seen anything like that before. And I was like, okay. Good.
Nice.
I don't have to buy a new one.
I think my contribution to Software Corner this week will be my little, what's back, AI image gen experiments. So it occurred to me during the week that now that GPT-4 has eyes and can do image analysis, and my frustrations with Midjourney and image prompting of like not really ever making actually what you want, but sort of it being so hit and miss and hard to sort of interpret the black magic of keywords and what will change. I was like, cool. So if GPT-4 can see things now, and I already use GPT to write my prompts or refine my Midjourney prompts, let's train it to make a prompt and then upload the resulting image back into it so it can see what it's made and hopefully learn from its mistakes and create this like feedback loop.
Yep.
So I set up this quite sort of convoluted prompt of like, all right, this is what we're going to do today. These are the steps, outline this plan to me so that I can see that you understand what we're going to do. It's like, great. All right. Looks good. And then I start, okay, here's our first prompt. And then I ended up getting it to write the first prompt in the end. So kind of it had agency and it was responsible for the starting point because I didn't want to sort of inject too much of my own sort of language into it. Anyway, I got it to do about 4 feedback loops where like I got it to prompt, then fed the image back in and it sort of goes, oh, okay, that's interesting, blah, 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 blah. And after about 4 rounds, I was like, cool, what have you learned? And it did quite a good analysis of like, what did it learn? This was about my 3rd attempt of doing this, by the way. Like I uploaded an image to the parts department Airtable there where you can see one of my earlier attempts where I was basically swearing at it because it was just completely hallucinating. Anyway, it got to a point where I was like, cool, this works. Like it is learning something. But after about 4 or 5 feedback loops, it starts to get lost, like as classic GPT does. It's like it starts to get a bit off track and it just starts to describe the new image, not sort of reference back. Like it starts writing prompts for the image that it's just made. So it kind of broke the cycle. Anyway, on one of the better conversations where it had seemed to have learnt something, I was like, cool, let's try an experiment. I'm going to give you a new image now, and with everything you've learned, you're going to try and write a prompt that reproduces it. And so I gave it one of our product photography images. And look, it did an okay job, but certainly nothing usable, like nothing that I could legitimately use in a business context. It's like, yeah, I can see it really trying. But again, kind of focuses in on the wrong elements of the image from what my priorities are and stuff like that. Anyway, just kind of highlighted to me how, yes, how amazing the tech is, but also how early in the piece I think we actually are in terms of where this is going to get to and how sort of hard to drive it is. Like, it's still not at a point where you can sort of really control much.
Right. I sent you some earlier this week of I don't often, so like I wrote this down. We have put out our calendars again for the Knack calendars for another year, which is a whole other thought of its own. And I was trying to just recreate the scene a little bit from an existing photo I had of one of the calendars, putting some different context into the shot. And it was horrible.
It's
repeatedly horrible.
One of the ugliest images I've ever seen. It's amazing.
Right. It just kept doing crap like that where it would like, I couldn't get it to understand the scale of the photo, first of all, because the original photo is our calendar on the wall. And so I would tell it, no, the object in the frame is 24 inches tall. Sometimes that would work. Sometimes it would I was like trying to put a chair back, like it was in a kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
On one corner of the thing in Photoshop AI. And it would put a chair like in the wrong perspective, just totally wrong. It was just repeatedly. So I was like, all right, just put the calendar into a kitchen context. So it would like give me some terrible ones. It just over and over. So yeah,
Which software?
Sometimes I'm shocked. It's Photoshop's AI. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's beta, but
yeah,
I guess now I have you. It's like you start to learn. We've talked about this before. You start to rely and grow your mind skill set to go, oh, I want to create something new with the AI tool with this thing. Like I know what I want to do now. Whereas before I think we didn't know that we could do it. So it was exciting and new and oh my God, look at it, did it. I didn't have to magazine cut out something and paste it in, then feather it in and all that stuff. It was like exciting, but now we have a lot of expectation for it. And it's just so bad. Some of that stuff. It was like exciting, but now we have a lot of expectation for it. And it's just so bad
a couple
sometimes.
of months ago,
and then other days it's amazing.
Pretty convinced that this was going to replace product photography probably sooner rather than later. But now I'm like, we're not quite there yet. And maybe the tech obviously is evolving really fast, and maybe we'll get there sooner than I expect. But yeah, right now it's like, no, still quite a way off this replacing my camera.
Right. Maybe you find this too with your products, but I'm not saying this that we have super unique products, but I was trying with the calendar, which is a weird calendar. So if you say it's a calendar, it's like, okay, what? It's a 1-to-3 ratio, basically, or 1-to-4 ratio of width to height. And so it doesn't understand what that is, first of all. It's like that shape. But then I was trying the tool holder to put it into a different context, trying to do the same thing last week. Just could not understand its perspective that I had in Lee. It kept putting it super flat angle, and it was actually pretty tilted. And so there's a lot of that where it's it needs historical examples seemingly at this point to interpret what it's looking at, first of all, to put it into something. And so when you're using your own products, it's unless you're making you have an Apple as a product, it's
having access
it
to
doesn't know what to do with it.
The knowledge of how to train models and having access to kind of off the shelf open source models where you could dump in I could dump in my whole Lightroom product library and say, hey, train on this. This just demonstrates how little I know about actually training these things. But if we could give it our own data set and say, this is what we do, and make a dedicated product rendering, product generating thing that's kind of trained on our proprietary data, then that could become quite powerful potentially. Yeah. So calendars are back, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. It's our 13th year of making them, 13th season of calendars.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's second product, technically. The first one was our laptop stand. And I have a pretty strong, small set of people that want them every year. And they start to ask for them about September, October. Are you going to make them? You know, it's always this kind of like, and even for me, it's always like, are we going to make them again? And especially in this last year doing CNC products, it's just really made that such a small part of our business that I don't want to kill it off, but it's also like this morning about it. I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess we're going to do the calendars again. And it's a good product, but it's also, I mean, it's weird and calendar that's kind of this blend between wall art and functional use. And every year there's just a little bit less sales. And the price, obviously, like everything, continues to go up. And so, yeah, I was just debating, like, is this worth it for us to, you know, keep marketing and doing? And like my next Instagram account is like completely dead. Like I had like 4 likes after half a day on you know, announcing the new calendars. It's just like I've kind of just let it go until there's a reason to use it again. But I don't know. Tell me, like, should I just be killing this off and not doing it anymore?
I don't know. You can't ask me that after telling me it's 13 years old. It's like
kill off your
such
teenager.
a legacy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I don't. For some reason, that changes it for me. I had no idea you'd been doing it that long. That's amazing.
2011. Yeah.
Wow. And it is such a unique. It does seem like quite a unique product.
It's pretty weird. Yeah.
That vertical stack. So yeah. I don't know, man. What's hard about it? Like, is it much work refreshing it every year?
Nah. I mean, I changed an InDesign file, make sure it's actually double check it so I don't make hundreds of mistakes, basically. No, I have
Just
it kind
add
of
an extra day here or there.
I don't put in a lot of work to the marketing, or like I kind of repeat a lot of the same things because the people that buy it just keep buying it. It's not growing. I've tried over the years it's been on different, like, those kind of like Trend Rate and Fab and all these others. What's that one?
Rich.
Yeah, it's been on
the legacy.
Different things like that. Yeah, it's nice for sure. And weirdly enough, I have like family members that are like pretty dedicated to like support me. Or do you actually like this thing? You know, like, but I think it's just in some ways, it just ends up being a little bit of a distraction, as well as like of our products. It costs a decent amount to produce every year, right? Like, and we got to pick to do it once. You don't do a reprint of it because the calendar season, as I've probably said before, is basically from maybe November, the early birds start now, through the end of January, and then it trickles to nothing. So you got to like hit this perfect cycle of people that are interested, and then after that, it's just nothing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Keep it. I want to see the 25-year anniversary edition.
I could do a little gold foil on it.
Yeah, a little gold foil, exactly. Just think of the gold foil.
If any of you are
17 years to go.
Right. If any of you are interested, I put a little link with a discount for the parts department folk in the show notes. We do ship to Australia. We have multiple people in New Zealand and Australia that buy them every year and spend a lot of good hard-earned money to get it there.
Yeah, it's cool. So, after much ado about probably underselling your Fusion Scrum GitHub a couple of weeks ago, where I was like, what do you do with Justin? Stick it in your Fusion drive. I made some progress on one of our workflow problems where I'll use my Kitapart in Rhino and I'll customize it for a customer. You know, it's got to fit around this window and blah, 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 blah. and there'll be like 2 custom shelves and a couple of custom dowel lengths in the design. We win the job, and then our workflow at the moment has been, cool, Josh or Davis, now redraw this whole thing in Fusion
Right.
for client approval and for manufacturing files. And it's just a time suck that we don't need to be doing because the design basically already exists in Rhino.
Yep.
And so yesterday I was like, no, we need to do better than this. And so just as a quick test, I exported some of my shelves out of the Rhino file as a step file. I used your amazing script that I have to do a time comparison for you because at first I did the normal Fusion upload.
Right.
I reckon it took close to a minute, and then your Fusion, and then I remembered your script. I was like, instant step file in the window. And it took me a hot minute I've never done this before, so I was like, I tried to run do a cam setup straight off the step file, and it was all like skewy, and I was picking weird edges and shit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, now I've got to turn it into a body. So I jumped back into design, stitched all these surfaces, Rhino NURBS, back into a Fusion body, which worked perfectly. And then in the manufacturing workspace, like John's automatic toolpathing just picked it all up, like the roughing toolpaths picked up all the profiles perfectly. It's like, okay, sweet. I think this might be the answer. So we just stop. For jobs like this, we just stop taking them into Fusion and do, those few custom components that need to be machined can just come straight out of Rhino and only go into Fusion for CAM.
Sure.
And then we're not doing client approval drawings in Fusion just for the sake of it, which I prefer generating drawings in Rhino anyway, in terms of those 2D outputs.
Yeah. Rob Lockwood reminded me.
Your little script might be an important part of that workflow.
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of just take it for granted now, I think, when I use it. Rob Lockwood reminded me after we talked about it in this episode. I guess I did never really try it, or it just wasn't a workflow I thought about. But if you just go to File Open in Fusion, you can open a step file and it does the same idea where it just instantly puts it into the file, into the Finder. And I was like, can you do that with multiple? And he's like, no, I think so. Yeah. So it still has, I didn't know that, which is kind of funny.
I didn't know that either.
I don't know how it deals with components and all that kind of stuff. For me, that was always so that like workflow that I'm constantly dealing with. The workflow that I'm always dealing with is I need each part to be a component separate so I can arrange them or nest them. And so that was the big key factor to me, is the script will take everything inside of a file or each file and then create its own as such. And the names kind of get lost sometimes and all that stuff. So it's still hugely useful for me in that way.
Yeah, that was kind of the next thing that, when I showed this to Johnny yesterday, he was like, oh, does this mean we'd be nesting in Fusion? I was like, no, I don't. Sorry, nesting in Rhino? I was like, no, I don't think so. I think we'd still do the CAM and nesting in Fusion on the Fusion side. But then I woke up this morning and I was thinking about this and I was like, I wonder if I've never written any scripts for Rhino. Have you ever dabbled with Rhino?
Back when I was smart in university, my friends and I would get pretty creative. Usually it was like one person that knew more would figure out a bunch. We'd be like, hey, can you do this? And they would do it. So it was like that one person was GPT. But we did. The holy grail was at one point to do laser models was being able to take your model, flatten it to the XY plane, and do a very rudimentary nesting with it. And somebody did at one point have a script for that, and I lost it. And so I always was using other types of tools, but it's totally possible. Nesting is not rocket science. Like the level of how well it nests and all the factors is a different story.
Sure. I often just want very rudimentary nesting though, just for like quoting purposes.
Exactly.
It's like, please chuck all these.
Right.
Please.
I don't think this has been fixed yet, but I have reported a few times that a range in particular will get better yields of nesting depending on which way the sheet is.
No.
Pretty
I
poor,
don't use a range.
unfortunately.
Yeah. That's
But
funny.
yeah, it'll get quite
You
a bit
mean
more
which way it's oriented in the
if it's landscape
XY.
or XY or.
Sheesh.
So if you're ever the way I caught it, one of the times that I've reported it was a client had sent me a screenshot of what they had done, and then I tried to replicate it with the real files so I could get my quote from it, and I was getting way worse yield. How is this possible? And I checked back with some of their details, and I was like, yeah, I don't know. I kind of have to report this, and I changed it sideways, and it worked great. And I was like, oh, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, wow. Interesting. Yeah. I guess it's all just maths, right?
Yeah, something.
Quirk in the maths.
Don't know why.
I've been watching, I still haven't done with Fusion configurations. I made one part with it the other day as just to try and wrap my head around it. But I was watching Josh use it yesterday on a project, and it looks so good.
Mm-hmm. It is.
And yeah, I don't know. I haven't wrapped my head around how powerful it could be for some of our products. But yeah, I'd love to get into it more. Have you done?
Yeah, I wouldn't say a lot. There's some people that have really gone crazy with it. I think similar to all these little tools and tricks and how I felt about learning Fusion in the first place is I had to kind of teach myself how to model again. And I don't think it's quite that extreme, but there's a lot more factors to use that don't break things, or kind of like being efficient with it, I guess, because I still feel like I'm finding a lot of ways where I need I'm not very efficient with it. It feels like I have to have too many variations to do some things, and then it'll toggle on and off too many things that I don't want in certain factors, and I haven't figured out how to make the themes kind of work for me at some time, in some circumstances. But in simple senses, like one version of it being successful is our tool holder holders. When I was kind of testing out, all right, well, we know we're going to probably do other sizes, like ISO 30 and Cat 40 they're not even remotely, close to the same original size. You could scale down for the ISO 30, but I didn't want to do that. It felt silly. So I basically have a perfect working version where it inside the same model, which is nice. It's really convenient. Cool. I don't know. Yeah, I'm curious to see where it goes. It is interesting. I found some weird things that didn't make a lot of sense. We were trying to make one of the things that's been backlogged because of the laser being down, or the 3D printer being a piece of crap, has been weird fixture. This is one of the bad versions. I think I showed this to you before, but it's a little thing where you flip the tool holder upside down on it into the laser bed, and it should make it so that we can engrave on the bottom of it to do some branding. And to do that, my thought was Ricky kind of worked on this, derive the main metal part into a new file so that it could pull down, but you didn't have all the other crap, because I have tool holders and all this reference stuff in there and all the feet, and you didn't need all that. What we need is the metal part so that we can properly set it up. So he does all that. We go to update the file with the engraving in it from the original file, and it treated it like if you do a derive from the original out, it treats it like it's a body, even though it was selected as a component. And so the sketch doesn't stay with it. There's a body and there's a sketch. And so I was going, little crazy with that yesterday, but I think there's a workaround where you do insert drive and then you can pull in a component and it works. We've got this whole timeline that seems to be lost of creating this little fixture related to it to be dynamic. It's just stuff like that that's like frustrating. And I guess I was getting there because that is a configured thing. So when you do a derive, you can choose the configuration. We're getting a little
cool.
in the weeds here, but
I like a good derivation.
Derivations.
So when you derive out a configured file, it prompts you to select which version you want. Is that how that works?
Yep. And you get a little thumbnail,
Cool.
which
Can
is
you
nice.
change it later?
Yes. And I thought that's how I was going to fix it. But the derive, which is kind of like exporting, for some reason, the only way I can rationalize it is when you derive out a new file technically is a component of itself. Like it is a component. And so anything that goes into it is part of that component. Whereas what I want is a whole new component with the body, with the sketch inside of it. So it moves around with it, you know?
Yeah.
And so that doesn't work unless you do insert derive, as far as I can tell. Just goofy. But you can. You can update it.
Okay, that's cool. You just reminded me of a frustration I have with Fusion sometimes where I want to rearrange the tree quite dramatically, but it doesn't let me because of like time space continuum or something. Like, and I'm like, no, I want to create a new parent component down here and then put all this stuff in that.
Yes.
And then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I've never quite understood why, and it's obviously something to do with timing or...
It depends on where you are in the timeline.
Yeah.
Pretty sure you have to be at the end of the timeline to drop all the crap into a new component. Or you have to be... Yeah, it's like a space-time continuum problem where it's like you can't
it really is.
put stuff into something that doesn't exist, I think is basically the idea. Which is the user of the software just flip and work. I don't care. Figure out time on your own, you know? Like just
work it out.
Lie to me and tell me it works and then do something in the background.
Nice.
Yeah, I've had that too. Yes.
What are my colored lights?
Yeah, were you a little... those are the Kickstarter ones though, right?
Yeah, the slide lights. Is that what you're asking
So
about?
they're only Australian lights.
What? They're not Australian?
Oh, I thought you said that. It was an Australian Kickstarter.
Let's go to party mode.
On that.
Yeah, they're slide lights from Australia. They're great.
Oh,
I like
daddy.
them. That's what he said.
That one was pretty obvious.
I think my last story running almost out of time, but I think my final contribution is I am having much better luck with my default diary lately.
Ooh.
And I think the key has been I print the damn thing out every week.
Oh.
Print it. So I go into my Google Calendar and I zoom in Chrome and I'm like, tick, 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 and screenshot it and I print it out.
You send it to
on a bit of paper and it
bamboo printer?
Send it to the printer. And it sits there on my desk all week. And then I tick stuff off. So when I finish recording, I'll walk out to my desk and sit down and it'll be sitting there looking at me and I'll tick off podcast recording. And then I'll do my half an hour, 15 minutes of planning and I'll tick that off. And at the end of the week, I've got this bit of paper with little ticks and crosses all over it. And I can see like, oh, I didn't do any design time any of the days when I was supposed to do that. Should it even be in my diary or do I need to change something to ensure that I'm hitting that?
Yeah.
And that's been a game changer for me, is like that kind of forced course correction of like, oh, I didn't do that, or I did do that every day. Great, that's working well, but this bit of it's not working well, or this meeting moved
Yep.
because of these factors.
Yep.
Because my terrible memory just kind of forces me to actually keep it active and working. So that's been really good. Can recommend.
That is interesting you say that.
If you're into time blocking.
I've never tried to do it with routine items like that, like routine calendar things, but I mean, made all these freaking planner things basically for myself to use to like, this, I'm holding up our little day plan thing. Like I made all of these not as like, oh, these will be wildly popular products, which they never have been, but like I need this. Like I functionally need, I've always used, like to-do apps, but they don't really work the same. Like what I need to get accomplished that day, I have to like write down and check off. And that like satisfaction and it being right in front of me constantly reminds me to basically do that thing. And there is some incredible power in checking things off on a piece of paper.
Oh, I know, right?
It is,
I know, isn't there?
super
magic.
Well, that's a hell of a schedule.
So that's just my schedule, and then I've got the equivalent of what you're talking about on the desk next to me as well, of just like the day and like what are the key things I need to do, and they get crossed out as they happen or they get moved to the next day, but they kind of all fit into a category.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had a bunch of handovers to do on jobs that we'd won, and so like come 11 o'clock when I'm supposed to do handovers, it was like, cool, what's on my list to hand over today, right?
Yep.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Very nice.
I know.
Your schedule is wildly more involved than mine. Which is probably not saying much. Like it should be probably more. And I really have completely like lost the thread of any type of routine schedule of my day. It's just, and I don't feel bad about it essentially. Like, much, but I am also not always getting the things done I should be. So there's that.
Definitely don't feel bad about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm kind of strangely jealous.
Used to
as well.
I mean, I can't say that 100%. I do. There's some thread of that, but I don't get at the end of the day go, oh my god, I didn't do my. It's mostly like I just didn't get enough done. Is what I always feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Glad it's working.
Thanks. Mm-hmm. Dare I ask, how have sales progressed in the first week?
Of the tool holders? Not
tool holder.
Crazy. Maybe less than I would have liked, but it's not been bad. We've had our first wholesale order of any of our products related to that. So that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Emoji thumb.
Yes.
Can I touch that? Oh, I can't. I clicked it.
Can I touch that?
So I don't know. I didn't necessarily expect that would happen right away or at all. And a lot of our products don't necessarily make sense to be a wholesale product, I don't think. So, that was, I guess it's rewarding in that this product was intentionally supposed to be something that was more of a wide market. That's a terrible phrase. Wide net of people, hopefully. And so I guess that proved itself. I don't know whether it's like a big decision for people to change how they organize things. They don't feel like they need it. We're not hitting the right crowd yet. There's a lot of factors to it, but I think a lot of people don't want to pre-order something. And maybe that's fair with what I've shown, I guess, in our pedestals. We're probably the biggest example of a long drawn out process that there's really nothing like that going to happen in this case. Like it's such a straightforward product comparatively. So
yeah.
I did to extend our show slightly longer. I did come up with a couple cool solutions for a couple of our testers wanted to magnetize theirs to the side of their mill, and I came up with a couple versions of cleats that are magnetizable or magnetable. So those are currently being made and sent to us, and probably get those up too. So we'll see how they work. But got some big old magnets.
More sheet metal parts.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, pretty simple, but be nice. I think the hope for me was that there would be a lot of ways to, I was going to say activate. God, that's a weird, terrible word. But to use these, right? Like I think a lot of people just want to set them on a table. Some want to hang them up in different ways. So whether you want to make that yourself or not, I think part of my challenge as of yet is to better show how you can use them in a lot of different ways. I think they're still too static as like a product imagery set, it's like just sitting there and not, hanging in different ways or like good diagrams or something like that.
Yeah. Or just more content of them being used in different ways in your shop. Right. I think would be cool.
I'll have to buy a ISO 30 mil or a BT 30 mil.
Interestingly, Instagram had served very little of your content to me on the tool holders. I went and clicked on your profile last night. I was like, oh, there's like 10 videos here, and I'd seen one of them.
Right. That corroborates to me that we've had incredibly low engagement with everything I've posted in the last oh man. Super low engagement, and it's been frustrating because it's like I don't know what I'm doing wrong necessarily. It's just back to that, like the algorithm god isn't blessing me. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think we got stuff outside. Open the door, please.
Cool. I'll leave you be.
The end. I've got some packaging here.
The end.
What?
Thank you kindly.
Thank you kindly.
Goodbye.
Bye. Bloop. The end. Now we click this.